Hi, it's Maribeth Decker with sacredgrove.com, and I'm here with Elizabeth Harvey. I asked Elizabeth to come and do this after she shared a story when you found that just the bones of a horse that it looked like it had been dumped in the desert, a, a carcass. And that story that she shared, that you shared, Elizabeth, and how you honored that horse's spirit even after the fact was breathtaking to me. And so you have more wisdom to share with us in this area. So, a little bio. Elizabeth Harvey's art and poetry focus on recognizing people, animals, and land that have been abused or overlooked, as well as seeking more reciprocal relationships with nature. I love this language, to include healing for both humans and the rest of the natural world. Elizabeth works as a licensed mental health counselor, coach, and consultant in New Mexico. She received a BA in Romance Languages from Washington and Lee University, close to home for me, and an MA in Clinical Mental Health Counseling from New Mexico State University. Her additional training is focused on eco-psychology, human-animal interaction, narrative therapy, grief, and trauma. My hope is that you can help us give us some ideas on how to talk about this and start healing our wounds. So, Elizabeth, welcome.
Thank you so much, Maribeth. It means so much to me that you invited me to have this conversation with you because these are all topics that I've been working through in my own life over a long period of time. So, I
Yes,
appreciate you sharing what that's been like for you and the chance to have this conversation.
thank you. I have to tell you honestly, I didn't even Google it because I'd rather hear it from you. I don't know what eco psychology or narrative therapy are. So, could you talk a little bit about that?
I would love to, and I'm glad you're asking because they really tie into some of the topics we're going to talk about today. Um, Eco psychology is a discipline that marries up ecology and psychology, and it's based in ideas of human well-being being tied in with the well-being of the rest of the natural world. And I say it that way for a reason because humans are part of nature. There are many schools of thought in which humans are above nature. It's very hierarchical. We're very separate from nature. And eco psychology lays a foundation for us finding our place amongst the animals, the landscape, the plants, everything else that exists. We're not dominating it, we're part of it. And so to me, that opens the door to seeking a reciprocal relationship that's less based on using and exploiting natural resources, as we call them sometimes, and more about relationship. And, a writer, David Abram, called it the more than human world in an effort to kind of counterbalance the way it's been for so long.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's where I'm at. That
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know there was a discipline. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
pleased.
Yeah, and just to mention it, because I think we'll draw from these ideas in our conversation, but there's an amazing book by Robin Wall Kimmerer, who is a scientist and a person of indigenous heritage. And that's really where I became more aware of these ideas of reciprocal relationship with nature and the healing possibilities there. Her book is called Braiding Sweetgrass, and it's just an incredible book.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll probably
Yeah.
find a link to that somewhere and share it with
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. So you also asked about narrative therapy,
You did.
and that's something that I incorporate in my counseling approach. And I've also begun to incorporate that in work related to connecting with nature. And it does have some very specific techniques and interventions in the counseling world. But in general, the idea is that we all have a story of ourself, And it's shaped by many voices. When we think about who we are and how we would tell our story, and even internally, not just to others, we can identify messages that we received early on in our life that may not be true to the core of who we are, yet we carry them with us. Sometimes those are messages of inadequacy in some way, or you always do X, or having a certain thing going on, anxiety, depression. We think that's who we are. Narrative therapy provides a framework for saying those are external. I am not my anxiety. I am not my guilt. And having a way to separate that out of the story. In narrative therapy, that's called an externalizing exercise. But so then you can think about your story in a more deliberate way in what you want it to be. That can bring so much hope for the future when we think about what our story could be. And so to me, this is where relationship with nature and animals can really come in a beautiful way, where we co-create this story together in a reciprocal way. And that way of relating can change how we feel about ourselves and how we relate to others.
I'm just so pleased, and I love that, because I know I've done a lot of I guess I've done some narrative where I'm recreating my part and who I am in my own story. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Maribeth.